Welcome to Market Movers, where we navigate the intricate world of Nigeria's economy. On the program today, we'll delve into the critical issue of financing for micro, small, and medium enterprises, otherwise known as MSMEs. Now, despite contributing 49.78% to Nigeria's GDP and creating 59.6 million jobs, MSMEs face a staggering financing gap over the years. And the World Bank estimates that these financing gaps is about $158.1 billion in Nigeria, which is nearly half of sub-Saharan Africa's total financing gaps. This shortfall hinders industrial capacity and growth. Now, of course, we know that this is not oblivious of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, the crisis that we all have across some regions of Nigeria, and of course the big one, which is the climate change. All this exacerbate the situation, leading to supply chain disruptions and a slowdown in trade activities. Now, as usual, our business and economy analyst, Dr. Godfrey Ajayi, is in the studio, and he'll be joining me to explore the challenges and triumphs of these MSMEs in Nigeria. Now, we'll be looking out for actionable solutions that is intended to bridge this financial gap. And as an SME, we want to urge you to sit back and sit tight, because you're going to learn a lot of things, a lot of innovative solutions that you can apply. But before then, I had an interview session with the Commissioner for Tourism, Cross River State, a few days ago, and he shared some insights on how tourism has actually supported entrepreneurship and helped the state in employing over 15% of the state youth force. Watch my interview with the Honorable Commissioner Abubakar Ewa, and I'll be back with Dr. Godfrey to look at the broader issues of funding MSMEs and the funding gap that we currently have. I'll be back after this short interview with the Commissioner. For some time now, federal government, state governments have been, saying that they want to diversify the economy to real sector, to other sectors that are ripe, that can help support the growth of the economy for many years. And tourism has become a critical part of that story. Across the world, tourism has become a part of the economy that is contributing greatly to economic growth, to the gross domestic product of countries. So we're trying to look at what is the potentials of sustainable tourism in Nigeria and the pitfalls. And we know that one place that we can quickly learn some lessons is Cross River State, which has become like the jewel, the coastal, jewel for tourism in Nigeria. So I want to start by asking you, sir, what is the contribution of tourism in Naira and Kobo to the economy of Cross River State?
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. Cross River State, as you know, like you rightly said, is a tourism destination state.
Yes.
And we are playing the center forward role in tourism in Nigeria. We just came back from Lagos for the Travelers Award. We came back with an award of the best active or the most active tourism state for the year 2023.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Now back to your question. Tourism has become a low-hanging fruit for Cross River State. And the value chain in the tourism sector is very, very significant in the state economic drive. You mentioned the coastal lines.
Yes.
The coastal line is very, very memorable and also very significant in the tourism drive of Cross River State. The coastal line was an evacuation corridor where the slaves in Cross River State and other parts of the East were evacuated to the Caribbean. That is why you see we have the Marina Resort with the museum, the slave museum, which we have donated it to the federal government. tourism in Cross River State has a lot of value chain. You know, I give you an example during the carnival. A pure water seller makes money. The hospitality industry makes money. The transportation sector makes money. And when you talk about, the tour guiding, which is now community driven, it drives a lot of our economic activities in the state. Sometime like 2023 Carnival, a lot of persons give out their houses for visitors to stay during the Carnival period. They make a lot of money. So tourism to us is a very great economic opportunity, which I expect other states to emulate, because it stimulates the economic sector, create employment. The employment may not be permanent, but the period of December, almost 30% youths of Cross River State are engaged.
Wow.
Either in tour guiding, in the hospitality industry, in controlling traffic. When I'm talking about traffic here, is the marshals that control the street adjoining to the carnival routes. So tourism in Cross River State has a lot of
contribution to the economy. So let's speak specifically now to what you are doing, because if it has this amount of potentials for the state and for the citizens or residents of Cross River State, what are the plans that you have to ensure that you have this impact in a sustainable manner?
Yeah, it's not just, you see, our tourism sector is beyond dancing, which is a carnival.
Okay.
In the next few weeks, we are going to launch what we call eco-tourism.
Okay.
Yeah. Eco-tourism is a tourism sector that has not been tapped. If you go to the East Africa, what they have there, we have it here. I tell you, we have species of animals that cannot be found anywhere in the world. I give you an example of the highland gorillas that are in Cross River State, in the Mbe Mountains. You have the gorillas the species of gorilla that you cannot find in any other place. You have the swallow birds. We call a place the Swallow City, where these swallows migrate, from Europe to Kabaka in Boki local government.
Thank you for staying with us and for watching that interview with the Honorable Commissioner for Cross River State, talking about the fact that tourism helps the state to employ about 30% of the youth population in that state. And like the commissioner was pointing out, this is something that even other states can actually emulate. He gave an instance of why many Nigerians would like to travel to East Africa, to Kenya and some other part of East Africa for maybe tourism activities, whereas we have even better tourism potentials in Nigeria that can provide the same attraction or even more attraction than those East African countries. And so on the show today, we'll be looking deeply on how do we finance MSMEs, because like you have heard the commissioner, during the peak period of tourism in Cross River State, a lot of small business activities take form, allowing people to make money. But the issue, therefore, is the sustainability of some of those small businesses. After the peak period, for instance, how can they continue in business? And what we have seen so far is the inability of some of these small businesses to access funding that could support their sustainability initiatives. And so I have Dr. Godfrey in the studio this this beautiful day to look at what are the innovative solutions that can be applied by whether it is Cross River State or any state in Nigeria or even the federal government as it were. Dr. Godfrey, looking at that interview, what did you take away?
Yeah, we know Cross River and Cross River knows us.
Yes.
And, it's unfortunate the last administration almost brought down the tourism potential of Cross River State. I remember, it got to a point where, once it's moving towards the carnival period, everybody wants to be in Calabar. Yeah. So, and the neatness when Donald Duke was the governor, you just want to even travel to Cross River State to go and see the neatness of Calabar City. You just wonder who does this cleaning that you cannot find. You cannot find any dirt on the street. I mean, we have programs in Tinapa.
Yes.
Obudu Cattle Ranch is a place that, look, I've been there. I stayed there for close to about a year. If you are having high blood pressure, you want to rest, really, just go to Obudu Cattle Ranch. As you are climbing up, you will feel nature. You will feel that rest. And, those are the potential it had. I remember even Donald Duke was trying to do the pineapple farm that time.
Yeah.
Those were, agribusiness generated tourism potentials that Cross River State had. So I'm happy for them if they're able to bring back some of this potential. Again, Nigerians are looking for where to go. The world is looking for where to go.
Yeah.
I was in East Africa, and I stayed in Saruva White Beach Hotel.
Okay.
And they were telling of a story of a white man who came. What the white people do is that at the beginning of the year, they begin to save. To say, look, during the carnival, I would like to go to Calabar. So this guy came to East Africa, and he fell sick somehow, and he went to the clinic, the local clinic at the hotel. And they gave him some drugs that make him to sleep for 3 days. And he had to sue them to say, look, I came to enjoy myself. You make me to lose 3 days out of. So that's to tell you how serious tourism is.
Yes.
And with the things that we want to do in future and the things that they're currently doing, tourism is one of those drivers of the GDP for the MSME.
Yes.
So the commissioner broke it down to say, look, 15% of the population of the youth, during that carnival period is taken care of.
Exactly.
Okay, in selling of water, in traffic management, even the tailoring, the tailors. At that time, they make the clothes that they use for those carnival and all those things.
The costumes and all that.
And if you have a 3-bedroom flat, I mean, there are a lot of hotels in Calabar.
In Calabar.
Yeah.
So at that period, the whole hotels are
it shut down.
Yes.
People now even begin to convert their houses.
Exactly. That is what the commissioner was talking about.
So if you have like a 4-bedroom, so you move now to one
bedroom.
Yeah,
and you rent out.
I experienced that in UK. That was a city I went for to go and do training. The house I stayed for, it's what they call this bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And it was a couple, an old couple like that. So when we eat breakfast together, but they ended up, they had like a 4-bedroom. They ended up giving like 2-bedroom for visitors, and they were making money from that. Okay, so that's the way what we should be looking at.
Yeah, so let's finish your thought line.
Yeah, so that's what we should be looking at. I mean, Cross River had to realize that potential because again, ordinarily they were supposed to be oil producing. So when they lost that,
they lost the oil producing rights.
So that's why I say sometimes maybe our oil. Some people say it's a cost.
Yeah.
So sometimes you become president, you now want to even say let's
let the oil go.
Let the oil go so that we can think properly. Okay.
Now, I think. For whatever it is worth, where the government is not getting it right, we should be able to say so, and where they're also getting it right, we should be able to also put it out there for people to be aware. My visit to Calabar, to get that interview, of course, we're going to find a day. We're talking with the producer to find a day to really put that video in order and to present it to you in full, so that you have a better context and a better perspective to what the commissioner was saying. But Dr. Godfrey, the commissioner made me to understand that the current administration, the Tinubu administration, has actually provided about 5 billion naira to the state government, to develop the Obudu Cattle Ranch into a form of a presidential camp, a presidential retreat camp. What do you think about that?
Oh my God. I told you I stayed in Obudu Cattle Ranch for 1 year. Man, it's I mean, for short of words, it's like heaven on earth. Okay, you know, the ranch that we started talking about, that is where it originally derives its name from. Obudu Cattle Ranch. Okay? So, and you know, the breeds of cattle they started rearing around that area. I mean, when you are in Obudu Cattle Ranch, you begin to oversee Cameroon. You're seeing Cameroon from far away. And you see the breed of cattle, the milk, natural milk, okay, that you get to experience from Obudu. I mean, that is a wonderful initiative. I mean, they have an aerodrome. That is by, you know, because
not far away from the Obudu Cattle Ranch.
A lot of people, when you want to move from Abuja now for Obudu, for example, from Calabar to Obudu itself, it's about 6 hours. But you discover that from Enugu, it's about 4 hours.
Yeah.
From Abuja here, you want to go by road, you're talking about 9 hours. So a friend of mine wanted to come and meet me while I was in Obudu Cattle Ranch. You know, before I said Jack Robinson, he told me he was in Calabar. I said, no, you have made a mistake. You're supposed to have gone to Enugu.
Yes.
Enugu to Obudu Cattle Ranch is about 4 hours. And the road, as I tell you now, it's okay. Okay? So if that has been done, then that's a brilliant initiative.
Yeah. So I want to commend the current governor of Cross River State and to, you know, and of course the commissioner, and to say that they should do more.
Yeah.
From
the way he's talking, you will see that he has a lot of experience.
Yes, yes.
That's putting about round
pegs in round
holes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it should be. So, I mean, with South Africa, he's doing great with tourism.
Exactly.
Okay, so I mean, they've developed all the potential, and he has said it.
You look at Rwanda as well. Rwanda is also tapping into that market. You know, so yeah, we hope that Cross River State government, represented by the commissioner and the state governor, will tap deeply into the tourism potential of the state. But let's come back home now. Looking at this fact that, you know, the small and medium enterprises contribute about 50% to Nigeria's GDP. You know, and the fact that the economy is somewhat being contracting. What sectors of the economy do you think small businesses should begin to focus more on going forward? Yeah,
the commission has started very well with tourism and the hospitality industry. I mean, I schooled in Bauchi, the Yankari Game Reserve.
Yeah.
Natural warm spring. Okay? But today, you will not be able to visit that place. When you go to Oshun, you know, you have a lot of lyrics, a lot of tourist centers. Okay? So, and the commission has broken it down to tell you, for tourism, we're looking at 15% of the population is being engaged within that period. Okay, so I now go back to my primary constituency, which has to do with agriculture and the agribusiness sector. Okay, so if you really want to increase the MSME contribution, I've told you that the farmers, they should be called farmer entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you attach that kind of a big name to them, they will see a lot of respect, because the kind of farming that we do right now is the kind of farming where, you know, you do it based on the fact that, you know, rains are falling.
Yeah.
Okay, so agriculture has gone beyond that level. We're talking about 3 seasons of production, because averagely, when you're looking at the grains, okay, maize, rice, all those things, if you plant within 4 months, you are harvesting. And once you have the right source of water, okay, that means you can do about 3 seasons. So with that, you know, and with the population of the MSME, if you add the farmer MSMEs to that, then you'll be getting greater number. But you need to engage them meaningfully. What about technology and innovation? Okay, people are building into technology hubs now and innovation hubs, and that is where our young people, you know, are thriving. Okay, you are talking about generation now that is Gen Z.
Yes.
Okay, that are naturally technology people. Then renewable energy.
Renewable energy.
Okay.
Now, before you speak to the renewable energy sector, talking about, you know, the potentials across the states.
Okay.
You know, we talked about Yankari and Oshun.
Yeah.
You know,
Oshogbo.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about Cross River.
Exactly. And you talked about, you know, changing the nomenclature of farmers. You know, instead of just calling them farmers, calling them farm entrepreneurs or farmpreneurs.
Yeah.
I think that could also begin to change the way not just the farmers look at themselves, but the way that you know stakeholders, like even the banks, the financiers, look at them, because when they come in as a farmer, you know, you look at them with that mindset because knowing that we are still within.
The most respected people in America
are farmers.
If they decide to go on strike today, it's not this kuli strike that Labour is doing.
Yes.
The whole economy will come
because the government still subsidize them.
Yes.
To a large extent.
I mean, there's no way you can do agric without subsidy. Okay. So the subsidy that you are removed from fuel, from oil, take it to agriculture, because again, look at it. When you wake up in the morning, okay, and you choose to say, okay, in the next 40 days, 40 nights, you want to fast, what do you break it with?
Food.
So it shows you that, look, food is the most important. And once you eat well, you will think better.
It's not even when you fast. When you wake up in the morning.
No, I'm just saying that some people will say, look, I choose to fast. So if you now
even when you choose to go for hunger strike, you have to eat.
So food has become such a very important, and like I said, if you eat well, you are going to think well.
Exactly.
And you become much more productive. Okay, so we must, begin to see how these farm entrepreneurs, how we can engage them meaningfully. I tell you, with the way the economy is doing, if the people are eating well, they will not bother about what is happening.
And one thing that is also amazing to me that I'm discovering as we go on this show is, that was on Saturday. I had an engagement with someone somewhere, and they were telling me about an agency of government, Niger Delta Basin Development Authority. And I was like, okay, is there an agency? I said, yes. Okay, what is their mission? What is their mandate? And I discovered that their job is actually to cultivate irrigation. All right.
For the basins found around the water. Yes. To be able to do irrigation.
Exactly. Exactly. So
and they're in all geopolitical
zones. So why should we be waiting for rainfall?
That's why I'm saying now, look. It has reached the era for every government agency. Whatever budget that you're having, what impact? We should measure impact. And that's why the performance Hadiza Ibrahim, they need to get to start working now. I can tell you this morning, when we woke up, we tried to estray, I won't mention the name of the ministry. We have not felt the minister.
At all.
I've never seen him on TV one day to explain that this is what I'm doing.
Even when we are talking about, because you are trying to shy away from mentioning the name, I think we need to mention the names of the ministry so that our viewers will be aware. The Ministry of Labour. During this protracted era of protracted labor crisis that we've been having, unlike during the time of this past Minister of Labour now, Ngige, during the time of...
It's at the forefront. It's engaging.
It's engaging.
So when I have a committee that is not headed by the Minister of Labour, then you know that there's a problem. Okay? So it means that, look, the man needs to redefine whatever his job is.
Yes.
I mean, somebody was telling me that, look, the previous minister, I choose not to mention him, that there's no memo, there's no proposal he sent to him. He will read it and make input. But that this current minister now, if you write to him, he will call you to say, okay, what was written in that before he will make his comment.
that is.
I will have that kind of minister in this government.
In this age, digital age. So now let's draw it down to our key focus for this edition of this show, Market Movers.
Yeah.
We understand that these small businesses are critical stakeholders in building a sustainable economy, like when we talk about sustainable tourism as well in Cross River State. And the challenge now that these small businesses are having, according to World Bank, they are having over 158 billion funding deficit. What do you think should be done? What recommendations can you offer first to the government before we can come to the businesses themselves on what they need to do? Okay,
so two critical things are available now. One, we know the numbers of this MSME.
Yes.
And World Bank has been able to tell you that with 158.1 billion US dollar, that is a funding gap.
Yes.
Okay.
The funding need.
Yeah, that's a funding need. So if we know the number and we know the amount that they need, is to see how to be able to make that money available to them. Okay. Let's look at the traditional institution that was meant to serve them. Okay. In terms of finance. Okay. You talk about Bank of Industry.
Yeah.
Okay. coming here, I started hearing an advert about the rural finance program that they have put in place now. Of course, during the last administration, the Bank of Industry was able to attract huge amount of money into that sector. But again, I tell you, you cannot get that funding except you have a collateral. Okay? So, and I ask the question, where is an MSME going to get that collateral from? To be able to give them?
Yeah.
So you can see that, of course, the wrong set of people may end up getting this money. So we need to actually get to the point where we become very innovative.
Yes.
So that we can reach the real people. Okay? So what do we need? You have Bank of Agric there. One of those people you need to drag here, because it's one of those people in the last 1 year you have not heard what they have done or what they are doing. Okay, then you now have a Development Bank of Nigeria. Okay, these are the traditional people, but I and you know that the Nigerian Stock Exchange, they have a pool of fund that we can innovatively put together to be able to address these MSMEs. So when you look at Bank of Industry, you look at Bank of Agric, you look at Development Bank of Nigeria, you look at the Nigerian Stock Exchange window. Then the microfinance, of course, the CBN in 2005, you know, they try to reform the microfinance sector, but again, they're not addressing the needs. Okay, so it's now to look what are the challenges really. Okay, one I think has to do with the database. Okay, so we need to have the database to know where these people are.
The MSMEs.
The MSMEs. There's something called credit bureau.
Yes.
Okay. So
I think the credit bureaus are still active.
They are still active, but they are not. The fund is not getting to the actual people. You know, in Canada, the moment you enroll to do an entrepreneurship training, okay, the government comes down to give you a hug to say, look, we don't want you to go back to paid employment. What do you need? And that comes to the part that, look, we need to be able to categorize these people to the micro. We start even with the nano, the micro, the small, and the medium. So those nano enterprise, they don't need a loan. What they need is grants to be able to build them up to the point where they will require those micro loans.
Now, when you talk about grants, sorry to interject, we heard recently that the government is giving 50,000 naira to some persons. Could that be the grant we're talking about?
Yeah, so grants, it's not money that you pay back. Okay, so when because a lot of people mix it up. You know, there was a loan scheme that was going on, and somebody said, look, I was going to collect grant. I had to, I was disturbed. I said, no, grants, it means that you are not going to pay back. Okay, but when you're talking about loan, it comes with an interest and it comes with a tenor. Okay, so you need to be able to pay back. So for me, the nano, the micro, what they need right now, okay, is to give them grants to be able to stabilize for them to be able, I mean, it's like somebody who is critically ill, okay? You have to first of all give the person drip for the person to stabilize, for you to be able to now take the drugs, for the person to now start responding to those diseases. So we need to do proper categorization, nano, micro, okay, small and medium.
Now, do we, because, you know, it has also been observed, you know, over time that, you know, sometimes we look at the federal government and we look less at the state government.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a role that the state government can play, you know, in this funding equation for the small businesses?
Yeah, one of the mistakes again the state government make is that it's not their responsibility to actually give this loan, because they are not trained to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So most times it happens, and that's where you see that the loan sector is distorted. Okay. You take a typical state government now, wants to give out loan facility to people. They are not trained to do that. So when the people receive the money, you hear something as like, that is my own share of the national cake. Okay, so if a genuine microfinance bank now wants to give a loan, they still see it as like, it's like the state government gave them some money. It's like we're not supposed to pay back this money. Those things cost.
In fact, it has become a culture. Whenever you do something, you know, that seems, you know, humanitarian.
Yeah.
All right, from your own volition. Or whenever you want to provide some form of assistance, to a certain group of people, or to, people begin to see it as if you are being paid by the government. And therefore, that entitlement mentality begins to set in.
Yeah. I mean, like in a place like US now, you take a loan. What they do is there's something called credit rating. So we need to bring back what is called credit rating into the system. Okay? When you bring it...
Currently, we don't have credit rating.
There's no credit rating.
We only have credit bureau.
Yeah, we only have credit bureau.
Okay.
So with credit rating, if I take a loan and I don't pay back, my credit rating drops. Okay? And God help me, become 0. It means that I can never get loan. So people protect their credit rating to whatever extent. And there's no way you can do credit rating, credit bureau system without a database. Okay? So today, there's a loan facility in Abuja. I take it and I decide to jackpot. For example, I cannot be traced again. Or I decide to relocate to Cross River to start a new life there. Nobody can trace me again. So the CBN did a wonderful thing with what they call the BVN.
Yeah.
Okay? So with the BVN right now, with the BVN, it means that whatever money that you have can be tracked. But again, when people take loan and they notice that the BVN is tracking them, then they lead now to financial exclusion. They will refuse to take their money to the bank. And that's why the cashless society has to come back. Okay? I mean, I went somewhere to go and do business, and I was trying to use my card, and the guy says, look, that is the beauty of the cashless society.
The cashless society.
So, as we have mentioned before, the government have to come back to see how the BVN will work. Okay? During the last administration, they also did a lot of AXMIS loan, agribusiness SME investment scheme loan, and it was meant to solve the problem. People were getting as much as 10 million naira. But today now, there is a problem of recovery.
There's a problem of recovery.
Yeah, there's a problem of recovery.
And that speaks to the data issue that you're talking about.
Yes.
Now, we understand that National Bureau of Statistics and SMEDAN actually came up with the statistics that we currently have about the number of MSMEs. But I don't know, do they have this database of these MSMEs?
Yeah, so that brings me to mind now. When you hear figure 41 million,
yes.
So there should be somewhere I can log into now to find out if my name
is captured.
Is there. Okay? So that one is figure. I mean, they do a survey, people just enter their data, not verifiable. Okay? So we should get to the point now where that 41 million that they talk about, we want to know who and who is there. I want to know whether I am there. Okay? So, and that's the level we should be at now. So when we say data, okay, verifiable data, it should be there. I should be able to check. Okay? I have, for example, about 5 different companies. And they all captured. The Bureau of Public Enterprise, BPP, did an excellent job, but they just hung the job without completing it. So it means that today, if I do a job, okay, I have to go to BPP portal to go and register that I've done a job. So at the end of the day, you will be able to capture how much turnover has been done over the year. Okay, so that looks verifiable because they know all the registered company in Nigeria today, and that can be verified. My name is on that portal.
That platform.
But the 41 million NBS and SMEDAN, I don't know whether my name is there.
Because as far as we know, there is no specific portal that have this database. And this speaks to one of the key advocacy issues you have been talking about the Ministry of MSME. Because I think possibly these agencies have not really been able to hash out what their major responsibility should be, which makes it, very, very important for a supervising ministry to be on top of the matter.
And that ministry has to be called the Ministry of MSMEs. Okay, so if you have that, there's limits to which SMEDAN can attract, okay, in terms of budgetary allocation, because it's not a ministry, it's an agency. So when you have Ministry of MSME, they will act as like a central body to coordinate other activities. This database that we're talking about now, they will be able to produce it. Then SMEDAN will come as a training parastatal under that ministry. Then Development Bank will come as
a funding partner.
A funding partner. It will now be called MSME Bank for Development. Okay? So World Bank has come in to tell you this is the funding gap. Okay.
So yeah, it has given you a target.
It has given you a target to do. Then Nigerian Export Promotion Council should also come as a parastatal now for the export potential of the MSMEs. So if you have this tripod arrangement and you have a Ministry of MSME supervising them, and you are giving them target to say, look, you have 41 million today, we need to know who they are by name and by contact. Then in the next 5 years, you can double that number. Okay, you can double that number to about 82 million. And once you are able to do that, then the economy will respond, whether you like it or not.
Now, we want to go for a quick break, but before we go for that break, I want you to look at, when we look at the economy, the trajectory of the economy currently, from Q1 to Q2 now, inflation has been one of the major challenges that we have. Now, looking at the MSME space, what do you think? Is inflation going to tick further or is going to drop? And what do you think, how is it going to impact the growth of MSMEs in Nigeria?
Without production, there is no way the inflation will come down. Okay? And that's why I feel that the government at this point in time should just focus on all the statistics. Okay? Look at the poverty rate, look at the inflation rate, look at the GDP growth rate, even though they propose that it's going to grow by 3.1. You remember during the Goodluck administration, they were saying that, look, there was growth, but it's not employing. Okay? So you must look at those statistics now. Inflation, poverty, okay? The numbers of the entrepreneurs that we have, how do we grow them more? Okay? So that's when you begin to have significant impact on what is going to happen at the end of the day. But as it is right now, I can tell you that in the next quarter, nothing is going to happen. I can tell you, because it's about garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
If you don't feed the system, there's no way the system is going to respond.
So in your thinking, we'll come back to that, but before we'll go for that break, but before we go for the break, you are saying that the outlook for MSMEs is bleak going forward.
It's bleak because we're talking about finance now. Who is giving them the finance? Okay? So, and if you are giving them the finance, how are you able to recover the finance back? Okay? Because again, once you give a loan and you are not recovering it, it's not going to make impact, because it means that the people didn't actually use it productively. Yeah.
And because they didn't use it productively, they have no option of being able to repay that loan. Yeah. Okay, on that note, we're going to go for a quick break, and we'll come back. We'll dig deep into how MSMEs will be able to navigate the economic outlook that Dr. Godfrey is saying is very, very bleak for MSMEs. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the short break. For staying with us on Market Movers on this beautiful day, I have with me Dr. Godfrey Ajayi Sunday, our business and economy analyst, and the GMD, G Consulting International Services, looking at the funding gap for MSMEs and possible innovative solutions that can be introduced by government on one hand, and for you as the entrepreneur, as a small business owner, how can you navigate all these challenges? Dr. Godfrey just gave us a projection for the remaining quarter of this year, and that projection says that it's going to be bleak for MSMEs. But we want to come back to Dr. Godfrey now to look at, because we understand as well that, when nations face critical, challenges, looking at the United States, when you have, the World Trade Center attack, when you have global economic meltdown, major crisis that envelops or engulfs that country, the Congress usually come up with a legislation that will, help the government to address those challenges. And, oftentimes we have seen that those legislations help the government to really get their hands, around some of those issues. What do you think that the government of Nigeria can do in this regard? Because we can't seem to afford to have our MSMEs, to go under, as it were.
Yeah.
What physical or monetary policies can be introduced?
Yeah, actually, there are three things the government can do. Number one is their physical policy reforms. Number two is the monetary. And number three has to do with combined policy recommendations. So when you talk about the fiscal policy, today, tax. Okay, so there should be tax holiday.
Okay.
For the MSMEs. Okay, so I mean, you are in good production, you have potential, then you should enjoy a tax incentive holiday. Then the government should also try to build infrastructures. Okay, Dangote at a point in time was advising the free trade zone in Ogun State to say, look, you must be able to draw gas from the Niger Delta to power the factories in around the Ogun State area. So there must be deliberate hubs that should be created right now, and you know those common infrastructure that the MSMEs need, you provide it for them. One of them, one of those critical needs is the energy requirement. The rural agency right now,
Rural Electrification Agency,
they are doing something around that. So if they find economically active villages right now, they give them solar panels. So they change them from the national grid to that solar grid. And it's
are you saying that they are doing that currently?
Yes, they are doing that.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, where my factory is in Yaba, in FCT here. Yeah. So I try to attract them, but they told me that, look, you don't have enough small-scale industry around that region. But if you go to a place like Lafia, where a lot of small-scale rice processing is going on, yeah, if you approach them and they see that you can generate enough revenue to be able to pay, then they move you from the national grid to the rural electrification grid at the end of the day. Then financial support. Okay, you know, of course, we mentioned the fact that, look, from the large tax that you have collected, try to see how you can, the one they call palliative now. But this palliative now, let them be directed to the MSME directly. And I mean, in one of our sessions, we mentioned the fact that, look, when you have, once you are registered, you are now a micro, maybe a small enterprise, you registered under the Federal Inland Revenue Services, then that palliative should come to you immediately, okay? Through the fact that you are a tax-paying entity. Okay, so with the comfort of your home, they already know your BVN, and because they know that you have filed for your tax this year, I mean, for example, now we're in June, for all those MSMEs that have filed for their tax this year, they have their details. Let me just be at the comfort of my house and I'm getting 5 million. If I get 5 million, I know what to do with it. I currently have up to 20 people on my employment, okay, from my headquarters to where my destiny. The moment I get 5 million now, this year we have about 10 hectares, which we wanted to farm, but because we couldn't have the resources, if I get 5 million now, I'll be able to go back to the farm to go and do my 10 hectares paddy farm to be able to produce raw material for myself. Okay, so once you get that, you now set up a monitoring mechanism to ensure that this money is used appropriately for what it's supposed to use at the end of the day. Then what about the grants and innovative hubs? Okay, there's something that we talk about that, look, in Nigeria today, as an MSME, if you have a new innovation, okay, there should be an innovation technology committee to say, like, you have a breakthrough, a technology that can solve the problem. So what the government should handhold you immediately and give you a grant to say, look, for you to be able to think, to be able to have that, the committee evaluates you and see that your innovation is going to be useful, is going to contribute to the economy, then immediately they should, you know, give you a grant for you to grow your enterprise. Nigerians are creative, Nigerians are innovative, but they just need that fiscal stimulation for them to be able to do more. And when you come to a monetary policy, you talk about lowering of interest rate. I mean, interest rate today, monetary policy rate is around 24.5%. That means that whatever loan that you're borrowing, it can never be less than that amount. And how can you grow an economy with a double-digit
inflation?
Not inflation, interest rate. Okay, interest rate is hovering around 30 to 60%, and that is critical. And how can you, as an MSME, grow that? So government must bring back those interest incentive rate to say, look, we're doing single digit, okay, as a way of providing incentive, interest incentive for those farmers. Then, of course, you must be able to see how you can drive down the exchange rate, because bottom line is that we still today depend on other nations, okay, to be able to drive our machineries, and dollar is not smiling. As at this morning, 1,510, okay, and that's quite on the high side.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you talk about the combined policy, this thing, there should be continuous capacity building. Okay, continuous capacity building and reorientation of how the MSME will do their business better, for them to be able to, hit that landmark that we're talking about, for things to be able to crystallize for them to be able to do this thing. Then, of course, you can bring in things like PPP, public-private partnership, okay, to be able to handhold governments and the private sector, for them to be able to do something meaningful. The chambers of commerce, what are they doing?
Across the states.
Across the states. So these are both fiscal, monetary, and combined strategy that the government needs to put in place. The solutions are there. So it's for them to just calm down.
So now the issue also is that, while we are hoping that the government, of course, they are hearing you on this platform, we take some of these things into consideration. And of course, we also know that on their own, they are thinking and, trying to do one or two things. Those things might take time to crystallize.
Yeah.
In the interim, what should the MSME do?
Set up the ministry immediately.
I'm talking about the MSMEs.
Okay,
now.
the MSMEs themselves. Yes. Yeah, the MSME themselves. One of the things they must do is what is called the group approach.
Okay.
Okay. Form yourself into clusters. Form yourself into group. Okay. With the cooperative approach, with the group approach, they can help themselves out. Begin to save little by little amongst yourself. Okay. I mean, the Igbo culture have one wonderful
Igba boy.
Igba boy. I hear that China has adopted it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So where you serve a master. Okay. I tell you what those boys learn. You don't learn it in an MBA class because they're learning practical on how to use money to be able to grow their business. You serve your master for some time. Your master gives you a certain amount of money. Those boys go back to their village meeting. They go back to where they have been saving cooperative society. They're able to get that money. Then they link up with the supplier. Okay, the supplier now says, okay, you're bringing 2 million to the table. We'll give you goods of 4 million because we know the master that you serve is a credible person, and we know that he has trained you well, and you know that he's able to guarantee you. So, for the MSME themselves, you need to help yourself now, because again, the Nigeria we are today is government unto yourself.
Yeah.
You build your house by yourself. You provide water for yourself. You provide solar power technology to be able to power your house by yourself. So, as we are waiting for the government to get it right, let us unhold ourselves to be able to do that savings among ourselves. Let us be able to say, when we need that money to go to the market, we can go to that Asusu, we can go to that cooperative where we've been keeping money. I mean, I tell you, they've developed this Asusu to the point now, December, people no longer suffer for Christmas packages again. So what they do is that we save 1,000 every week. At the end of the year, they will give you 1 goat, 1 chicken, and 2 bags of rice.
Yeah.
So which is enough for you to...
That's satisfactory for the whole festive period.
So wonderful package. So they must be able to come back innovatively to start thinking. One of those things that we must deploy right now is what they call the warehouse receipt system. Okay? With the warehouse receipt system, what happens is that at the end of the day, once you finish production, you take your commodity to the warehouse. Rather than an agent coming to buy from you, you take it to the warehouse, and the warehouse manager gives you a receipt that you go to the bank to go and get some money for yourself. And that also can lead us to what is called input-output subsidy scheme. Like we agreed from the beginning of this thing, the subsidy that is removed from oil should go to agriculture. And what do you do right now? Tell farmers at the point of harvest, bring in your harvest, and whatever harvest you're bringing,
to different silos.
Yeah, to different silos. As you bring that, would give you an input. Will give you an input worth 2 times of what you have brought in. So with that, you will bring in all the grains. All the grains will come in. Okay, and you will now empower them with what they require to produce. Then once you have surplus grain in your store, rather than release those grain, talk to the flour mills, talk to the rice mills. Okay, so by the time you talk to them, they convert. That's where the point of value addition. Value addition comes in right now. So once you add value, then other nations begin to look up to us. People living in South Africa, people living in the US, are people living in the UK. They are looking for made in Nigerian
products.
Products. They are looking for the ugba that that scents very well. They are looking for that elubo, the black amala. Okay, so with that, at this point in time, for us to solve this problem, actually, MSME must begin to look at export.
Okay. That is something I wanted to even come to you about. It's okay. Now that the local economy is contracting, and like you said, it's looking bleak. What does the international market, provides for MSMEs? Is there a way that they can, quickly and adequately deploy, global market penetration strategy to navigate this crisis?
All these people that have left, they have Jackpa. They are missing Nigerian food, though.
That's true.
They are missing Nigerian food. So you need to be able to build an ecosystem that can feed them. And this time around, they are now paying in dollars. So with that, they are now earning dollars, and before you know, the exchange rate will begin to drop. Okay? I mean, I was in a conference in East Africa, and after staying there for about 3 days, we started missing Nigerian food.
Yeah.
And the Calabar woman saw okra, he saw semo, and the next thing he prepared us a fine meal. Guess what happened? Before we could come out as Nigerian from the class to go and eat what our sister has prepared for us, the Kenyans have finished it. So we have a recipe problem. Today, if your wife prepare egusi, it's different from the way
your wife is going to prepare it.
Yeah. So why don't you have a recipe, a formula that egusi is standardly prepared? So even if a white man, comes to Nigeria and he wants to prepare egusi, it takes that formula to prepare it. So at this point in time, we should be able to prepare SME, Nigerian restaurants, to drop it in every capital in the world. Because Nigerians are one of the most widely traveled people.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Dr. Godfrey, if I allow you, you will continue to talk till till the next morning, and my producer just informed me that we are running out of time. But again, I think one of the critical things you have just pointed out is MSME's outlook for the next quarter is quite bleak, but they can begin to band themselves into a group to see how they can navigate the funding gap, and as well as take advantage of the international market, the global market, to push out their products, their goods and services. Thank you for staying with us on the show today, Market Movers. We'll return to you tomorrow. Until then, stay tight and stay blessed.